Do you remember? Can remember. Do you remember when? Do you remember?
Can you remember? I Remember with Michael Doyle on Southeast Radio.
Hello, good morning. It's I Remember time here. You're very welcome to join Michael Doyle now on this another glorious July morning, the 20th of the month. And what a beautiful, fine summer's month it has been so far. This morning, another interesting guest for you to meet, a young woman, an enterprising young woman indeed, who has set up business on her own place. And she's here this morning to tell her story and how recently she has won an award for her endeavours. Her name is Deirdre Howlin. And Deirdre owns a plant centre in the very south of the county in Kilmorkey.
I was born in County Monaghan, just outside Monaghan town, in November of 1977. I grew up in Monaghan. My whole childhood was there. We moved to Wexford in 1990 when I was 12 years old. Life in Monaghan was good. The Monaghan people are really nice. My dad at the time had a garden centre called Howlin's Nurseries. We grew up, I suppose, surrounded by the horticultural industry. We were always taken out as children to, propagate plants, and there was always a bit of work to do, weed the garden or, do all that kind of stuff.
But you say Howlin, and of course there is a great Wexford connection there, in that Howlin is a very well-known name in Kilmore, and that's where your dad and your whole family are from.
Yeah, Dad was originally born in Kilmorkey. He went off, I suppose, he went to boarding school in Peter's College when he was the age of 12, and after that he got a scholarship and he went to study up in Dublin. He studied in the botanical gardens and he studied agriculture for a number of years, and then he specialised in horticulture. He studied in the botanical gardens then. After he qualified then, he got offered a job as a horticultural advisor, and that's what took us up to Monaghan. I suppose he picked Monaghan because Mum's from Cavan, and it wasn't too far away from Mum's family at the time, so that was why he chose Monaghan.
You said Cavan there, a bit like you nearly had a Cavan accent.
I'm just so used to listening to my mum all the time. The Cavan accent never strays too far.
You are half a Cavan woman, of course, then as well. So
I wouldn't go as far as saying half.
but there is that. Of course, you were born in Monaghan, you said.
Yeah.
And you went to school in Monaghan?
Went to school in Monaghan in St Louis Convent until I was 12. So we left just after I finished primary school.
And what took you back to Wexford then?
Dad always had a keen desire to come back down to live in Kilmorkey. He didn't think it would be as early as 1990. He thought it might be when all his kids had grown up and fledged home. But my great uncle Johnny Howlin, he owned the family farm down in Grange, Kilmore, and he had left the farm to Dad. Johnny and Kate both were still alive. Kate was Johnny's wife, but Dad just took the decision then to move down when I suppose the opportunity was there. So he closed up Howlin's Nurseries in Monaghan now, and we set down the road for Wexford. But we were well used to Wexford. We used to always come down here on our summer holidays down to Kilmorkey, maybe for 2 weeks every summer, and then we would be down at Christmas to visit Dad's family as well.
A really nice place to come to live.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Great memories.
Are you overlooking the sea?
No, we're not, but we're not too far away. We're located in between Kilmore Village and Kilmorkey. I suppose as the crow flies, we're probably about 1.5 miles from the shoreline.
Very good. And of course you are the proprietress, and we'll come to this later, of the Grange Greens Plant Centre, and you're following in your dad's footsteps.
After working in Dublin for a number of years, I decided it was time to find what I wanted to do. I was in Dublin working for Wallace Construction at the time. I had enough of city life at that stage, and it was time to find my calling in life. I went off travelling in 2003. I went to Australia for 1 year, and in that time I surprised myself and realised that I wanted to go and do horticulture.
And maybe at one stage you never thought you'd do that?
Never thought, no.
There you are.
No, never thought.
Yeah.
So after travelling, I came back in March 2004 and decided that I was going to apply for, it was a Teagasc course at the time. It was the horticultural course in Kildalton. So I started off in September 2004 with just maybe doing 1 year in mind. But as I progressed in the course and realised maybe I'll do a year two, and it just turned out that I ended up doing 4 years and getting my honours degree in horticulture.
Right. So why not put that then to good use?
Yeah.
And that's what you're doing now.
Yeah.
But we'll come to that later in the programme. I want to
Okay.
talk to you now. You said you worked for 3 years with Wallace Construction, and of
I
course
did.
that means you worked with our current independent TD, Mick Wallace.
I did, yeah. Mick, yeah, he was a fantastic employer. He treated all his staff as if they were family. He looked after each and every one of us, you know, particularly well. It was always a joy. It was always interesting. There was never a dull moment.
What did you do?
I worked in the office with Mick. I suppose I did anything really that Mick wanted us to do, as much as, you know, maybe we did wages, we would have looked at the accounts, paid off the suppliers, we also looked after the Wexford youths, I suppose their flights to Italy when they're doing their training, and looked at
Right.
maybe accommodation and that kind of stuff. Yeah.
So this was when Mick was at the height of his Wallace Construction
Yeah.
business in Dublin, and there
Yeah.
was loads of employees, and it was boom time.
It was boom time, yeah. There was probably, I think maybe at the time, probably about 40 employees, which it was like a family. We all knew each other very well. On a Thursday night after work, you know, Mick would invite us all out, and we'd, you know, we'd go for drinks in Stag's Head, and it was great fun.
Yeah,
It was great times, yeah.
And how long did you stay working for?
Approximately 3 years.
Did you move to work with him after school?
No, I didn't. There was a couple of years in between school. I tried a number of different avenues. Maybe I thought I wanted to be a painter decorator at one stage, and
Yeah.
you know, it was always hands-on things.
Yeah.
I'd studied a little bit of interior design, and I did a secretarial course in Bridgetown after I finished. But I moved to Dublin, and I was working for a law searching company, and I was friendly with Mick's son Sasha, and that's how I became to
Right.
know Mick, and
Yeah.
he offered me the job then in the office. Yeah.
Very good. So what
Luck, I suppose.
what made you decide to leave it then? Because it was you left when Mick's business was doing really well.
It was. I suppose it was. I left out of personal gain. I did love Dublin, but at the same time, I wasn't. This wasn't just for me. I wanted to
Yeah.
explore other avenues and maybe find what really made me tick.
Yeah.
So
To do that, you took a year out.
I took a year out, went
Yeah.
to Australia. My sister was already in Australia at the time, my older sister Sandra. She'd been there a couple of months, so I suppose I took the leap, and we went out, and we travelled around Australia in a camper van, and you know, we lived rough for a good number of months.
That's what you do in Australia, I suppose.
Yeah, the experience was fantastic. I suppose we were out in nature all the time. We were in the outback, and we went up through the middle and down the west coast and down the east coast.
Yeah.
We did a fair bit of driving, and
So fast forward then,
Yeah.
and you come back. You decide to do your degree in horticulture.
Yeah.
You got your degree in horticulture.
yeah.
And you got your first job in the horticultural area.
Well, after, I suppose, as part of our horticulture degree, we looked into the floristry side of it, which I love. I finished my horticulture degree in May 2008, and shortly after that I got a job with Slady Flowers here in Wexford. And I was full-time for 1 year, and then it went down to maybe 3 days a week in year two. I learned an amazing amount of, you know, talent, and had a great experience in Slady Flowers. The girls are fantastic at what they do. But the downturn came, and I suppose I was last in and first out. So at that stage it was time to look closer to home and what resources were there.
Yeah, and did you, was that your immediate thinking, or did you look for another job, or did you think, no, I'm going into business myself?
No, I looked at what was home, and I said, I think that it was the boost I needed to, you know.
Yeah.
I suppose when you're one of your parents is self-employed, you always think, well, maybe I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
So I suppose I spoke to my dad, and you know, Dad would always encourage us to, you know, he would always encourage us to do what we wanted to do, and he's always there to lend a helping hand. He's been fantastic over the last 2 years. He says he's retired, but He'll never retire. He's never too far away.
So how then, the day you got up and said, I'm going into business, was it something like that, or was it a gradual thing?
No, it was a gradual thing. I suppose at home we had polytunnels, and it was, I had to, to keep myself. I suppose I had to look to social welfare for a while to keep me. And while I was doing that, I was kind of, thinking about maybe I should do this. And we weighed up lots of options. I suppose then over, a year or a little more, we kind of said, right, maybe we'll do a plant centre. As
opposed to a garden centre.
As opposed to a garden
centre.
Now,
what is the difference?
Plant centre, what I wanted to do was to produce good quality plants at a quality price. And I didn't want to look at garden furniture or pots or, the
usual
slug
things you
pellets and the tree ties and all that. Maybe, the usual lifestyle centre. I wanted to keep away from that.
Right.
And I suppose the emphasis on plants had kind of, in the boom time, had took a sidestep.
Right.
So I wanted just to bring that back again. My passion is plant propagation.
Yeah.
It's what I majored in my horticulture degree. A lot of people did garden design, but I'm glad I didn't do that now.
Enough garden designers.
Yeah. So, I suppose I like the work where you're standing at a table and you're producing plants, and you get a good buzz out of when you produce a plant from a cutting or from a seed, and you look after it and you nurture it and you produce a good healthy plant.
So that's where you started?
That's where I started, yeah. So it took a good long while, I suppose, to build up the stock we needed to open the garden centre. So we opened the gates to the public in the summer of 2011. And from there it's growing and growing. Last year was a little bit difficult with Mother Nature didn't act too kindly to us. She gave us too much rain, I suppose. But this year now the sun has shone, and I think everybody's twice as eager to get out into the garden. So I've been very busy now for the last 8 weeks sales wise. But I suppose we would start our summer bedding plants we would start seeding in February. So it's not just a matter of buying them in May and selling them on. We would seed them all and look after them. So it's a long process from when you sow your first seed in February and you sell your first bedding plant in May.
Well, at this point, Deirdre, we have to take a break, and we're going to hear more now from Deirdre and an interesting award that she has recently won in the second part of the programme. My guest on I Remember this morning is Deirdre Howlin from Kilmore Quay, and we'll have more now with Deirdre after the break. Welcome back to I Remember, and my special guest on the programme this morning is Deirdre Howlin from Kilmore Quay. And Deirdre, your Grange Greens Plant Centre now, you said you opened it 2 years ago, and this year something very important happened because you have now been recognised for your business, and that must have been very pleasing altogether. Yeah,
I can't believe it, really. I suppose Grange Greens and myself really have been chosen to be, I was one of the top 6 finalists in Ireland for the FBD Women in Agriculture Awards 2013. The awards is run by the Irish Farmers Journal and Irish Country Living. The way it came around, I suppose we were at home one morning in March, and South East Radio was on, and we heard Mairead Lavery, who's the editor of Irish Country Living, and she was promoting the competition, and my ear kind of clued into what was going on, and my sister Eleanor was there in the kitchen with me, and I was going, they were talking about there was 3 different categories, I suppose, of the competition. There was the On-Farm Innovation Awards, and then there was the Agribusiness and Innovation Awards, and there was the Lifetime Achievement Award. The award in which I would have qualified to enter into was the Agribusiness and Innovation Awards. It's where you would take your farmyard and change it into an agribusiness, a sideline business of mainstream farming. So I turned around to my sister Eleanor and I was going, I qualified for that category, and didn't think any more. Went off to work, busy bee, and out doing my propagation and looking after my plants, and off I went. And about maybe a couple of days later, Eleanor turned around to me and she went, I entered you into that competition. So what she had done was she had to write a 500-word composition on me and my achievements so far, and she looked back into my history and where I studied and what we had done. So we carried on with Grange Greens, and we were busy, coming into the summer months. So didn't think any more about it, and 6 weeks later I think Eleanor got a phone call saying that we had been nominated for one of the top 6 finalists in Ireland, and I couldn't believe it, Yeah. So after that we were told that there would be 3 judges coming out to visit us. I think it was the 11th of May this year. So we had Mairead Lavery was one of the judges. She represented Irish Country Living and the Farmers Journal. We had John Duff, who was a representative from FBD, and we had Professor Cathal O'Donoghue from Chagas. So they came out, I think it was 10 o'clock in the morning, and keyed up. I didn't think it was going to be as intense as it was. I suppose I was trying to keep myself quite calm. So the 3 judges walked up into the farm, I suppose, into the farmyard and into Grange Greens Plant Centre, and the interview began. It was a Dragon's Den style interview, so it lasted an hour and a half, and needless to say I was under pressure. But we spoke about Grange Greens and what we did in the plant centre, and we also spoke about what I would do as a sideline business. Grange Greens is great in the summer months, but in the winter months we have to look for something else to do. And
you have found that, I believe.
Yeah, from October right up to the Christmas season, we would subcontract. It's a contract from a company over in Kerry, a foliage company, and what we would do is we would provide the labour and supervision on the production of maybe approximately 10,000 Christmas arrangements, which would get exported to the market in England.
And you oversaw the making up of those?
We oversee the making up of that, yeah. I keep saying we because I never exclude my dad.
Well, you often refer to a company as we anyway.
Yeah. So, that gets us through the winter months. When that is over, we send that big order out around maybe the 10th of December because it has to go into the supermarkets in England for sales. And at that stage we would look to producing some of the arrangements for home sales.
Well, that's 2 aspects to your business then, and I'm just wondering, like, from being made redundant, then how big a step is it for a woman to set up in her own business? The challenge of it, and the thrill of it, I suppose, and the fear of it.
Yeah, it's quite daunting, I suppose. But how I done it is I took one step at a time. My dad has been really, really helpful and has been a mentor, and I suppose because of his lifetime in horticulture, he had the contacts there, which aided me into getting, I suppose, so far as I have in such a short period of time. My dad did have the contract for the making of the arrangements for a number of years, and I've just overtook that contract and oversee that now.
And what aspect of the business are you best at, or what's your weak point?
My weak point is probably the whole business side of it. I'm a worker. I love being outside, and I love getting, my hands dirty, and I love looking after the plants, and I love the floristry side of it as well. That's why I do the Christmas stuff.
But you have to manage as well.
I do have to manage. I don't work. I suppose I wouldn't call it a job. It's more like a lifestyle.
And
we have our busy periods during the year, like the summer period and then the Christmas period. You don't get many days off when that's happening.
Yes,
but we do.
It's a 7-day operation.
It is.
Weekends even more busy than.
Weekends are even busier. Yeah, I do close.
Does that bother you?
Sometimes I get a little bit frustrated, but you just have to overcome that. And every morning you get up, there's some new challenge to do and to conquer.
Anyway, where you live, and sure you can rush down to Kilmore Quay, and you're one of the best places in Ireland for a bit of relaxation.
Yeah, we'll go for a walk on the beach. I will now. I'll bring the dog for a walk on the beach every so often. And most in the summer months, I find my sister will come over and say, "Come on for a walk on the beach," and I suppose I'm after working maybe from 8 o'clock in the morning, and it could be 8 o'clock at night, depending on whether it's rained or what watering we have to do. And sometimes I'm just like, too tired to go for a walk on the beach. I've been on my feet all day, I've been outside all day.
But you have more moral support than from your sister. You have a partner.
Yeah, I do. Christian Tierney. Yeah, Chris is good in the busy times. He'll come out and he'll give a hand, but he's great support. He always encourages me to go for it, and you can do it, and yeah.
But he has his own interests.
He does. Yeah, he's a keen musician. He's a bass player. It's his passion in life, I suppose.
So a passion in music and a passion in horticulture.
Yeah,
so a good mix.
It's a funny mix. Maybe I can get him to come out and play some music to my flowers, help them grow even better.
Gardening is a huge area, isn't it now?
It's unbelievable. One of my lecturers, I think it was the first day in college, he turned around and said to us, "Don't pretend you'll know everything." He said, because you could study horticulture for your lifetime and you still won't know it all.
Yeah.
So it's you're learning something new every day.
Yeah. And it's interesting that you're concentrating your business solely on plants and growing plants and producing plants maybe that you wouldn't get elsewhere. Do you go in for sort of unusual species, or are they mainstream? Or
what we would do is that we propagate the plants that will grow in this area. There's no point in me trying to propagate something that's not going to grow beside the sea, or
so does that mean you specialise in seaside plants?
Seaside planting, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you might be specialising in something that would grow down your area but mightn't grow up sort of in Rathnure.
Yeah, because or even further north, because we wouldn't have as cold a climate, I suppose, down here in the sunny southeast as they would have maybe the Midlands. So you'll always get a difference in what's going to thrive down here or something up the country. Yeah.
So what's your favourite seaside plant?
Oh God, I have millions. I love the herbaceous perennials, which are the country cottage garden look, the ones that will
name one so that our listeners could identify it.
The Atris is lovely. They use it quite a bit in floristry arranging as well. There's thousands, yeah. You're putting me on the spot now.
Yeah.
But the herbaceous perennials, they're great because what they do is they die back in the winter, but they come again every year. So you have that splash of colour in the summertime, and as they mature, as the years go on, they'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. So you can divide them out and spread them in your garden. I just love the country cottage look.
Well, where to for Deirdre Howlin then in her business? What are your plans?
I suppose we're going to keep on going. I'd like to maybe expand the range of the plants in Grange Greens Plant Centre. When I was in college, I did my thesis on children and nature. So what I designed a children's garden, I suppose, as part of my thesis, and what I'd love to do, this is now into the future, but I would love to design a children's garden and have that in Grange Greens.
Okay, well at that point we have to leave it, Deirdre, because our time is up. So I'd like to thank you, Deirdre Howlin, for being my guest on I Remember this morning, and I'll have another interesting guest for you to meet on the show at the same time next week. Until then, it's Michael Doyle saying bye-bye.